Welcome to Go Again Gaming, brought to you by the Card Vault, Patreon, and GoAgainGaming.com. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel.
So hello and welcome back to Go Again Gaming. My name is Az, and today we're going to be looking at the thoughts, desires and speculations of not only myself but other members of the community for Flesh and Blood in the year of 2022. It's very much fast approaching. Before we go into it, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Hit a little bell notification if you do want to be notified of any future videos or series here on the channel. And if you do want to help support this channel and support me directly, go check out my Patreon, buy through my affiliate link at the Card Vault for sealed products or Ultra Pro accessories. And if you are looking for new and unique custom Go Again Gaming playmats for Flesh and Blood, go and check out GoAgainGaming.com. That would be fantastic. So yeah, I mean, we are pretty much at the end of 2021, and we've just had the UK Nationals here in the United Kingdom, which were a lot of fun to watch. And I did actually appear virtually on the stream in this sort of format, actually. I couldn't make it myself, but hopefully next year I'll have the experience to be able to appear at such events. But if you want to go and catch that, you can go and revisit the stream and all of its intricacies, dramas and controversies on the Tabletop 24 YouTube channel, hosted by Living Realms as well, a fantastic local game store up in Leeds or Castleford, which I also did cover recently as well before that Nationals happening. So go and check that video out as well if you haven't done so already. But here we are at the end of the year. UK Nationals had some drama, it had some controversies with regards to misplays and potential cheating, and I mean, LSS have already addressed this. They're going to investigate the stream and investigate the plays that were made or misplayed, and I'm not going to go into it too much because I'm not a judge. I'm not someone that enforces the game rules, but I do think that the main takeaway from this whole experience is to have a judge overseeing the live stream table that a lot of spectators around the world are watching. I think there needs to be that sort of element of a higher power looking over the game and just pointing out interactions here and there that might not necessarily be picked up on a usual game. So, you know, if an attack was, you know, swinging for 4 when it should have actually swung for 2, it is a big difference. It does make a big difference. And a judge, I think, a third eye perspective, you know, a third person perspective, can pick up these little intricacies as long as they're paying enough attention. So I do think that a judge needs to be there constantly looking over that live stream table, because not only is that live stream table a very, very important game most of the time, which can determine a monetary prize or title, but that live stream table is being watched by hundreds of people all over the world, and they are looking at this table, they are looking at this game as a representation of what higher level players should be representing. You know, so I do think there needs to be some form of oversight on that table. I think that is the main takeaway from the discussion with regards to what happened. So you can go and check that out on Tabletop 24's channel, hosted by Living Realms, to see for yourself. And there's probably going to be timestamps here and there from other YouTubers. Like, check out Steelfer's video on this situation as well. He goes into a lot more detail with regards to what happened. But I think the main takeaway is we need a constant judge on that live stream table for future UK Nationals. But I'm sure they will address that in the future, and LSS will come out with a reasonable response to what happened. But yeah, before we go into the next topic, what are your thoughts? What are your opinions? What should national events here in the UK or anywhere else in the world, what should they have to prevent this sort of thing from happening? Let me know in the comments below. But I will say this. I mean, I'm still a pretty fresh player to the game, and I haven't really competed in high-level events. But one thing I do a lot is I announce what it is that I'm doing. So you should be announcing the plays that you're doing and the interactions that happen when you play your cards. You should read the card. The card explains itself. And I don't think there's going to be there's going to be errors here and there, but at the end of the day, you should be explaining your interactions to your opponent, especially if there's a live stream involved. I think you should be encouraged or forced to a certain degree to make sure that you explain your interactions and why they happen and how they happen and what happens as a result of your interactions, because then not only do the spectators know what's happening, the judge also knows what's happening. The judge can then find out whether there is a misplay or a mishap with regards to that interaction that you're trying to pull off, and I think it will just create a better experience for the people that are watching, the people that are playing, because not only do the spectators need to know, your opponent needs to know the interactions that are going on. You need to be explaining every single play and not just expecting people to know how your deck plays. Just describe your card. That is all you need to do. Just slow everything down and play the cards and explain the interactions. And if you miss something, that's fine. That's what the judge will be there to do, to enforce that. If you misplay something, that's what the judge will be there to do, to enforce that, to take the game a step back or penalise you for doing things multiple times. But the main takeaway, again, I'm ranting about this, there's better videos out there that explain what's going on, but I do think in the main there needs to be a judge that oversees the live stream table, and I think the players that are invited onto the live stream table do need to be set a precedent as to explain your plays, read your cards, for the sake of the stream and for the sake of your opponent and for the sake of the judge watching and judging the game and making sure the game flows. Explain your cards and interactions, and if you miss anything, the judge will then make a call to say, let's go back a step, or let's miss that and have a penalised next turn, or something along those lines. But leave a comment in the section below as to what you think should happen, and let's move on to the speculation. So that was pretty much the end of this year. The end of 2021 ended with the UK Nationals here in the United Kingdom. So let's look to the future. Let's speculate as to what's going to happen next with regards to the year of Fab, the year of 2022 in Fab. And I think this is going to be quite an exciting sort of segment, really, as to what we can come to expect. And I'll get to the community thoughts later, because I think a lot of them will be covered in what I'm going to say. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time, I think. So the first part of the year, we're going to see a second supplementary set, or as Fresh and Buds likes to call it, Crucible of War. So Crucible of War was the first supplementary set to Flesh and Blood, and it says on the back, throw open the armories and heat up the forge, bring your skill, luck and best damn gear to bear as you're plunged headfirst into Crucible of War. This is basically just says brand new weapons, armor and strategies for your favourite heroes. So it wasn't a draftable set, it was just a expansion set to all of the heroes and all of the classes that we already had, which at this point was the Ninja, Warrior, Brute and Guardian, Runeblade, Mechanologist, Ranger and Wizard at the time. So we just expanded that sort of card pool. And I think they're going to do the same again. That was a fail. With the newer heroes. But I think they're going to go into a lot of different things, which I'm going to bring up on my little notes here. So yeah, I still think they're going to have support for all of those generic classes, because that is probably the best way to support all of the aforementioned heroes, whether they're a elemental Runeblade or a shadow Runeblade or what have you. They're just probably just going to add more Runeblade cards to support the Runeblade class in general, even though Runeblade doesn't really need the support because it's ridiculously good. The meta always becomes a Runeblade, I think. But what do I know? I'm a casual player. So yeah, I think they're going to support classes in that way. They're going to just add more generic, all-encompassing types of cards that all of the heroes in that Runeblade category, Briar, Viserai and Chain, can all access. So I think they're going to do that in the main. They're just going to add more generic class cards into that so that it supports all of the characters so far. And I also think we're going to see a lot of the talents also represented. So we're going to get more shadow cards, more light cards, which obviously benefit their retrospective Leviar or Chain or Boltin or Prism, but we're also going to get the element cards as well from Tales of Aria and the elemental Earth, Ice and Lightning. So I think we're also going to get expansions and extra cards for the talents, which obviously hit all of those heroes that can use those talents as well. So I think we're going to get support for generic classes and the generic talents, which obviously hit on different heroes. So I think we're going to get support for the heroes in that way. I don't think we're going to get support for Shadow Runeblade. I don't think we're going to get support for Elemental Guardian. I think we're just going to get support for generic classes and then talents, which hit all of the heroes. So another thing that obviously Crucible of War had in the original set was more young Blitz heroes. So obviously we had stuff like Kasai, we had the Kavdaean Merchant, we had Datadol, we had Benji, we had all of those other sort of younger heroes that could be used in the Blitz format, and also we also had Shiana as well. So is the Crucible of War set really going to try and hit on more Blitz heroes that can be used for the Ultimate Pit Fight format? Because Shiana was blatantly an Ultimate Pit Fight character, and so was Kavdaean. So Kavdaean and Shiana were basically multiplayer format heroes, I think. So is Crucible of War just a supplement set to Ultimate Pit Fight in the future, or Blitz? So, you know, it's an interesting one, because obviously the Crucible of War, the first set, had a lot of those Blitz heroes. There's no adult heroes in Crucible of War. So will there be adult heroes in Crucible of War 2 or supplementary set 2, or are they going to continue along the trend of releasing more young heroes and stuff that could support multiplayer formats in the future? I think it's going to be the latter. I think they're going to introduce more Blitz heroes. I think they're also going to introduce more heroes that care about the multiplayer side of things, which also ties into another point later, which we'll touch on. So yeah, I think there's going to be more younger heroes in there. I don't think they're going to be adult heroes of older characters, but this is just my speculation. Leave a comment as to what your speculation is on that side of things. But yeah, in general, the supplement set is just going to have more good stuff for us all to brew with our favourite characters, which we think is going to be good. And obviously as well, the fabled cards of these sets might be or should be the gems. I think that might have been confirmed. I spoke to Fabio from Living Realms about it, and he said that it's probably going to appear in the next supplementary set. The gem cards that were sort of spoiled or teased in the Rudy kit that you could get from Rudy as a patron. So yeah, I think the gems will appear in the Crucible of War sets, because I think they're just, apart from obviously the Arc Knight Shard, that was a Viscerai specialisation. I think the gems are probably a good way of just getting a Fabled in there, which is a bit of a chase rare, as well as just being generically quite good to use for pitch purposes. So yeah, I think the gems will appear in the future in the Crucible sets, because obviously we'll get onto this point later, but landmark cards are going to be in the new sets, the new booster draft sets. I think let's be honest. And another thing that I think there might have been a bit of foreshadowing with regards to the first Crucible of War set, when they introduced the Kasai hero and the cash-in card and the merchant. So obviously all of those cards care about money in the game. So you've got copper, silver and gold. And even on the card cash in, it cares about having copper, silver or gold. So is that like a foreshadowing to a set that cares about the monetary tokens, like copper, silver, gold? So were they hinting to next year's set when they released Crucible of War this year? Was this year? I think it was, wasn't it? Crucible of War was this year. I wasn't playing back then when it was released, so I think it was this year. But were they foreshadowing that we're going to see a mechanic in a main booster draft set that cares about coins and copper and silver and gold? So yeah, was that a prelude? But I think we will see, maybe not this year, but in the future we are going to obviously see copper, silver and gold, potentially in the pits. But yeah, I think I don't know whether that's going to be, if there's going to be more copper, silver and gold in this particular set, but I think it will be a good place to put it again, potentially, because cash in and all of those cards from Crucible of War are now out of print as well, which is another interesting thing. So leave your comment in the section below as to what you think that's going to be about. Is there going to be more coins in more coin cards in this set? Maybe a reprint of Cash-In? Probably not. But what is that? Is that a prelude to another set in the future? Are we ever going to see coins again, or was it just thrown in there as a sort of thematic thing that we're never going to see again? But I'm glad I got my playset of Cash-Ins, that's for sure. So yeah. So what's your thoughts on Crucible of War or the second supplementary set? Leave a comment in the section below, and we're going to move on to the unknown product in quarter 2 of 2022. So this is released in the same quarter as the standalone booster draft set. So that's interesting. So leave a comment as to what you think this might be. I think it could be maybe like a reprint of the original Blitz decks. I think that's maybe a bit of speculation from the community, which I'll get to a little bit later. But I think it could be a reprint of, or a more accessible product for people to get into the game via all of the heroes that have been released already. Because obviously, Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising are going to go out of print soon, so there's got to be some sort of product that allows players to get the older heroes in a starter deck form, because you don't want people really coming into the game now when the older original heroes are going out of print, because they're going to be harder to get and harder to obtain. So I think you do want reprints in those particular cards, the older heroes, but I could be wrong. I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going to be Blitz decks for the older heroes before their sort of products go out of print. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe it's like another sort of weird off the wall product that they're going to sort of experiment with, like maybe an Ultimate Pit Fight thing or a PvE thing. You know, there's a lot of those rumours going around as well. So unknown product in quarter 2. What is it? Leave a comment in the section below as to what you think it might be, because I know nothing. I haven't been in this game long enough. I'm just speculating here. So after we have the unknown product in quarter 2, we move on to the draftable booster set. So this is like the equivalent of your Monarchs, the equivalent of your Tales of Arias that we've had recently. So this is going to be the draftable booster set, which I think now in the future is going to obviously support the heroes and classes that we've had already, but I think it's going to introduce a new talent every single time when we go to a new place or a new region. I think it's going to have a new talent every time we go to a new place. So I'm going to flash up the Wraith artwork now for the map that you can see. So far we have had the Welcome to Wraith set. So the Welcome to Wraith set included Bravo, the Guardian from Aria, it included Rhinar from the Savage Lands, it included Dorinthia from Solana, and it included Katsu from Mysteria. So in the first set we had a smattering, obviously it was called Welcome to Wraith, so it's going to have a smattering of characters from all over the world in that first set, which is fair enough. So then we moved to Arcane Rising, and again this had a smattering of characters from all over the place. It had Kano from Volcor, it had Viserai from the Demonastery, it had Dash from Metrix, and then it had Azalea from the Pits. So if we look at this now, this graphic now, you've got a pure smattering of people from all over the place. So again, it's representing the entirety of Wraith here in these first 2 sets, which I think is very, very interesting. Because yeah, if you look at the characters that are now represented in those first 2 sets, every single sort of named location on the map is now covered by a hero. So you've got Dorinthia in Solana, you've got Bravo in Aria, you've got Katsu in Mysteria, you've got Kano in Volcor, you've got Viserai in the Demonastery, you've got Rhinar in the Savage Lands, you've got Azalea in the Pits, and you've got Dash in Metrix. So every corner of Wraith is now represented by a hero from those first 2 sets, which is very, very interesting. But now if we go into Crucible of War, we'll have some other expansions, maybe in Crucible of War, or obviously the set we spoke about earlier. So obviously we have added to Volcor, we have Kasai, added to Mysterio, we have Benji, Metrix, we have Datadol, Pits, we have the Merchant, and in Savage Lands we have KO. as well. So we got a few new heroes added to the regions there from Crucible of War. But now, I think what we're going to see, if we erase all of these heroes, now what I think we're going to see with regards to the booster draft sets is obviously every time we go to a new place, we're going to get a new talent, which is obviously going to come with a new smattering of heroes. But these heroes are going to be grounded in these areas going forward. So obviously if we look at the first set that had a talent in it, it was Solana. So obviously this was the Monarch booster draft set. So Solana in the centre of the Wraith map there had Shadow and Light, represented by Levia, Chain, Boltin and Prism. So obviously those heroes stem from different areas of Wraith, but the light and the shadow was very much tied to Monarch in Solana. So next we had Tales of Aria, which had just been released recently, and this was based in Aria. So we could be going round in clockwise order potentially based on this graphic. So obviously first we had Monarch, and now we have Tales of Aria. So this is just going up to the northeast of Solana, where we had Tales of Aria, where we had the Elemental talent added. So alongside obviously Aldim, Lexi and Briar. So Aria, the next booster draft set that had a talent. So if we were to go in clockwise order here, we could see that Mysteria is potentially next on the list to be visited if you go in clockwise order. And Mysteria obviously has the ninjas, and obviously they have that weird sort of mist border. So it could sort of be some sort of mystical ninja or some sort of mystical talent that we could see or expect from Mysteria. So if we were to go round in clockwise order, it would make sense for us to go to Mysteria next if we were carrying on that trend. So Mysteria, then Volcor, then the Savage Lands. Mysteria, then Volcor, then the Demonastery, then the Savage Lands, the Pits, and then Metrix, and then maybe back to Solana. So if we were to go in clockwise order, that's the way it would go. So we'd have Mysteria next as the next booster draft set, followed by Volcor, Demonastery, Savage Lands, Pits, and Metrix. So will it go this way? I don't know. I mean, I have a theory that the Savage Lands could be the next place that we visit, because if you look at the marketing assets and if you look at the region sort of logos, it goes in this order. It goes Solana, which obviously goes with Monarch. It then goes Aria, which ties in with Tales of Aria, and then on the marketing assets, the next logo in that list is the Savage Lands. So could we see that trend be followed up? Could we see the marketing assets giving us an insight into what is coming next, with the Savage Lands being shown as the next logo in that list? So could we go over to the Savage Lands and get maybe like a nature or animalistic talent, which goes along with the brutes and more brute support? And brutes did get a little bit of support recently with regards to Monarch, because obviously Monarch had some brute cards in it. So I don't know, maybe it's just a bit of a wild speculation there, but that is another thing that I picked up on with regards to that. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation there as to where we could go next. But what are your thoughts? Leave a comment in the section below as to what you feel could be a good place to go next with regards to that. But yeah, there's two theories there. It could either go in clockwise order, starting from Solana and going round the world of Wraith, or it could go potentially from the marketing assets list as well. So a couple of speculations and theories with regards to what we might see as a result of that. So yeah. But I do feel that I think the main takeaway for the booster draft sets is that I do feel that with the introduction of these talent sets, obviously we're going to continue to see that trend, that there'll be a new talent in every sort of major standalone booster draft set. I think that is going to be the main thing, because not only does it bring more sort of variance and more theme and flavour into the game, but it also doesn't detract from the classes that have been established and supported so far. Because if you were to introduce new classes every single booster draft set, it's going to get difficult to keep up with that many classes. I think there might be a new class every year, but I don't think there's going to be multiple classes in each set going forward. I think it's mainly going to be a talent-based thing driven by the classes that are already established. And I do think we're still going to get different classes in the future, but it's not going to be as frequent as maybe we wanted to, what we were speculating on maybe 6-7 months ago, or when I started speculating 6 or 7 months ago. I don't think there's going to be that many new classes introduced as I thought back in those days. Well, I say back in those days. I've only been playing for 6 months by the end of the year, but yeah, I think a lot of my speculations in my early days of looking at this game are definitely wrong. But yeah, that's what I think now. And I also think, with regards to the standalone booster draft sets that are based on talents or based on locations of Wraith, we are going to continue the trend of seeing a landmark in every single thematic, flavourful set going forward. It makes sense, because obviously if you look at the trend now, we've had Monarch with Solana, the Great Library. We've had Tales of Aria with Corsham, the Crossroad of Elements. Mysteria could be some sort of mystical waterfall, or where Katsu is trying to find the magical fruit to heal his family, or his plagued family. So yeah, it could be any sort of location based on what they see fit in the lore. But yeah, I do think we're going to see that trend continue throughout all of the talent-based sets going forward. That is for sure. And I did predict that obviously Tales of Aria would have had a landmark card. I thought it was going to be the Eisenloft, the Peak of Eisenloft or something. No, not Eisenloft. Was it Eisenloft? I can't remember. But yeah, I did predict back in my Tales of Aria prediction video that we would have landmark cards going forward, and I think that is going to be the case in every sort of standalone booster draft talent-based set. And it's good as well because obviously it world builds and lore builds, and people can go into the lore, and there's going to be loads of stuff around that particular location, which just builds more theme and flavour into these locations, into these sets that we're going to, that are definitely blatantly based on the location that they're in. So we're going to go into a few community thoughts now from people that are in my Discord, my patrons, and other members of the community that have chipped in with regards to what they might want to see, their speculations, their desires, their thoughts on the future of this game going forward. So first of all, we have Ziggy, also known as I Am the Fire TCG on Twitter. Ziggy's been following me for a while. He's a patron of the channel as well, so thank you very much for your contribution, Ziggy. It's been great getting to know you and stuff. So yeah, we'll keep up that relationship, I'm sure. So Ziggy is saying, wishes for the new year. I'm looking forward to callings in Asia, and hopefully attend one. Then I wish to see a set in Volcor with copper, silver and gold support, and a hero finally reaching living legend. So yeah, I really do hope that you will get callings in Asia, and as the game grows, we're going to get more bigger events placed around the world. And I believe you said as well that you feel it could be in Singapore, Taiwan or Hong Kong, and that Singapore is closest to home to you. So yeah, I do hope that happens as well, and I'm sure it will do as the game expands. And as to sort of copper, silver and gold, I did mention that earlier. I do think when we do go to Volcor, or whenever we go to, I think it's either going to be Volcor or the pits that sort of go into this mercenary contract killing heroes or mercenaries for hire sort of theme. It definitely fits with Volcor, because obviously that's where Kassai's from, or the pits, as that's where the merchant's from. So I think both of those sets, pits and Volcor, or both of those locations should I say, could see the introduction of more copper, silver and gold, which I think would be a fantastic flavour win for the game itself. So yeah, definitely agree with that. So next we have Patrick, another dear patron of the channel in USA, and he is saying about judging. So this is in regards to the UK Nationals. So they need to be empowered and qualified to recognise certain actions and pause the game to correct them. Things happen, right? There's so many things going on. Someone's bound to make mistakes, and that is true. Especially if you're playing at that high level, you don't really want to have to explain your cards and do things. You want to be in the element. You want to be able to do these things. But saying that, we do need a judge on that table, especially for live stream and spectator purposes, that can be enforced. They can enforce the rules. They can take the game a step back and say, wait a minute, you're not attacking for 4, you're attacking for 2 as a result of not triggering the Rosetta Thorn or whatever it is. we do need oversight on this table. That's what Patrick is going into here, which is really, really good. So yeah, I agree with Patrick there as well. We do need higher qualified, empowering judges to make decisions based on where the game is going, and maybe enforcing penalties on players and having the confidence to be able to say, hold on a sec, you can't do that, let's go back a moment and sort it out. So yeah, definitely agree with that. I mean, again, there's a lot of videos out there, especially from other UK-based content creators like Steelfer, that go into the intricacies of the ways that judges can impact the game and what they should do and what they shouldn't do and all that sort of thing. So go and check out their videos because I'm not going to go too much into it here. Papa Collective on Instagram says, good question. So I put this question out there to everybody. So Papa Collective, their wish list would be a new set with entry-level heroes and weapons. So think along the lines of Welcome to Wraith. So we can continue to grow our community by bringing in new players and not just existing MTG or other TCG players. So yeah, I mean, a new set with entry-level heroes and weapons, that could be interesting, although I don't know if there's going to be room for that sort of thing. And I think the aforementioned Quarter 2 unknown product could be blitz decks or some sort of intro decks that sort of cater to newer players that missed out on the Welcome to Wraiths and Arcane Risings that were establishing the generic classes of the Wraith world. I think it's going to be Quarter 2 unknown product could be something to touch on that. I don't know whether we're going to get new sets that really like sort of tailor themselves to newer players, but I could be wrong. It could be a good thing to do, but I think it also lends itself into that supplementary set or a beginner set. I don't think we're going to get more beginner sets going forward. So that's an interesting premise, but I think that might be expanded upon within the supplementary products outside of the Crucible of War style things. I think we're going to get more products along those lines, like intro decks for players that missed out to begin with. Papa Collective is also saying they want products and or initiatives by Legend Story Studios that focus on community building. This could be new welcome decks or supporting LGSs with learn to play products, etc. So yeah, that could be good if Legend Story Studios wants to maybe give more local game stores like learn to play stuff, because I mean at the moment the community I think the community are really the ones that are driving the intro / learn to play events. I mean, I'm doing an in real life beginners intro event this month with a local game store that doesn't have the support of LSS at the moment. So yeah, it's an interesting one. But again, I think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to focus on intro products anymore because the community is doing it for them at the moment, and it's growing exponentially to a rate where we don't really need intro products. But we'll see. I mean, it's a good thing, definitely a good sentiment. And then Papa Collective goes on to say, continue to improve event coverage, in particular having explanation segments which explain key / core elements of a hero or deck. So yeah, that could be a good little thing, but I think that's mainly down to whoever's organising the event. Their scheduling was manic, especially for the UK Nationals. They wanted to have like little bits and pieces here and there, like Push the Point live and interviews with players and what have you. But the scheduling is so strict in these tournaments, and time just flies, that it's hard to get that sort of coverage on a live stream unless you have maybe 2 live streams going on. So you've got the live stream table, but then you've also got a separate live stream on a separate channel potentially, or on a Twitch channel or something that is streaming something entirely different. So that is a logistical nightmare for organisers, I imagine. And I couldn't even think about doing that on like stuff that I do, like the Go Again Gaming Open. I can only stream one table, and that is still a headache in itself. So it's going to be a hard thing to do, but it is a good idea nevertheless. And finally, Papa Collective, you say a new wizard, please, and not fire based. So yeah, a new wizard was something I think a lot of us were looking for in Tales of Aria, like an earth wizard or an elemental wizard. So yeah, I do think we do need another wizard. Kano being at 30 life is such a massive downside, but the fact that Kano can play at instant speed is a really, really cool touch. but just not really competitive at the moment unless we see some major expansions come out for him in the new Crucible of War set. But yeah, I agree, a new wizard would be awesome. Andrew Donnelly, another dear patron of the channel, is also very, very supportive of a new wizard being in the game. He would also like to see modernised intro decks made for the first 2 sets. So yeah, I think those modernised intro decks for the first 2 sets may be something to do with the Quarter 2 product that's not known yet, and I think that would be a good place to put it, especially for the fact of the other points that we've discussed for newer players and people getting into the game at this point that have missed out on Welcome to Raven and Arcane Rising that will obviously be out of print soon. I think this Quarter 2 unknown product could be a good way of printing a load of intro decks. And I think it's a market that isn't tapped yet either, because I know a lot of people in the community that build decks for intro beginner events. Ryan Cooper, for instance, who also has a say on this community section at the moment. Ryan Cooper builds intro decks for stores, for people like me that want to run intro events. So I think LSS are missing out on a market there, and I think they are going to fill that market. So yeah, definitely. And then Andrew also goes on to say that a modernised intro deck could also be potentially a randomised intro deck with a handful of supers and majestics for that class at random, which then goes into the collectability side of it. You could actually buy these decks as an investor or as someone who wants to get these products for the fact that you could still crack them at a later stage and get things that you're not expecting. So that's a good point, a good idea potentially for these intro decks to have a handful of majestics and supers that will then allow players to play, you know, majestic or super cards, so powerful effects, but also if they want to risk buying another deck, they can do. So that capitalism thrown in there as well, why not? So yeah, I think that's a cool idea with regards to modernised intro decks that have random elements. That's a very, very good idea, Andrew. So looking at it from a financial and FOMO perspective there, I love that. And then as we said earlier, Ryan Cooper, the person who builds intro decks or has built intro decks for me as well as other members of the community, has a few points here. So he says, it won't happen in 2022, but I'd love a return to Wraith set where we revisit those heroes and what talents they have been given or gained since then. So yeah, I mean, going on to Papa Collective's point about going back to an intro or starter sort of set, I think we probably will go back to, or we will be given a more of a generic set that has a smattering of heroes from different areas. Because obviously, if we go back to obviously the point where I made about the map and what has been released so far and the heroes that have come from different areas, obviously Welcome to Raven and Arcane Rising had those heroes from different areas. So I think we probably will get more sets that will just focus on heroes from different areas all over the place, but then obviously maybe with talents and other specializations and stuff thrown in. I think that could be quite good. And I think we also might see more of the same heroes coming through in later sets as well, like a different Azalea, a different Dorinthia, with more cards that then support that particular named hero, and then it also gives us the ability to throw in more specializations for that hero, which then support all of the heroes with the same name as well. So I think that could also be quite good. So that was a bit of a spitball off the back of what you said there, Ryan. But as for 2022, the pits with gold, silver, copy / bounty hunter talent, with more ranger love, with some generic cards that all rangers can use. Yeah, so yeah, I definitely agree with that. As a massive fan of ranger, I was quite let down with the fact that Shiver was an elemental ranger weapon that could give easy dominate, whereas with Azalea you have to jump through so many hoops to get the dominate. So yeah, I agree. More good stuff for the generic ranger, please, and a way of giving dominate to arrows, because obviously ranger's way of leaking damage over the top is definitely dominate, and it is hard to get if you're playing just a generic ranger. So maybe we'll see some more expansion into the pits and that sort of silver, copper and gold / bounty sort of cash-in style talent. That would be good. If there was some form of talent that cared about the money that you was making, I think that would be very, very cool. Very thematic as well for the pits and Volcor, which care about mercenaries and killing for money and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, so a bounty ranger, or how would you put that into talent? Mercenary ranger or mercenary warrior, potentially something that cares about copper, silver, and gold. Like mercenary could be a good one, because they're a soldier or a warrior that fights for money. So a mercenary ranger or a mercenary warrior would be absolutely awesome, because you could then filter in that gold, silver, and copper stuff into the hero itself, which then makes use of spoils of war and cash in and all of the other good stuff that we've had with regards to the money aspect. So yeah, that'll be cool. And then another really interesting point that Ryan makes for Ranger is having a hand or offhand throwing style weapon that could be used when you have no arrows in your arsenal. Because one of the main things about Ranger is that sometimes there's turns when you just can't attack because you don't have an arrow in your arsenal to fire off. So if you were to have maybe like throwing daggers or darts or something along those lines that you can access from the start of the game, just to give you an attack that does something and applies some pressure to your opponents, maybe that would be a good thing to have, like an offhand or token that you can start with. Maybe the new rangers, the mercenary rangers or what have you, start with another weapon in play that isn't, obviously they have their two-handed bow, but they also have a trinket or something like when Dash starts with an item in the arena. This ranger can start with like a throwing dagger or a dart or something that they can just use when they don't have arrows in the arsenal to fire off. So that's a very, very good point as well, and a cool idea to have a sort of a weapon that a ranger can use when they don't have access to their arrows and their bows for whatever reason. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. And obviously Ryan also goes on to wanting more streamlined and sharpened up judges for maintaining and overseeing the streamed live tables for future UK nationals. I definitely agree with that. I think the main takeaway from the UK Nationals was to potentially have a qualified, empowered judge that isn't afraid of intervening with the game and making decisions for the better outcome of the game and penalising players that are doing it too often. Just highlighting a lot of the issues that need addressing as a result of the live stream of the UK Nationals. But that's pretty much all of the thoughts that we've had from the community. And what are your thoughts? I mean, this has been quite a long video and quite a long speculative video, but I do love these videos. I do love speculating as to what we could get and just throwing ideas out there to LSS to potentially pick up. So thank you to all the people and in my Discord, patrons and all that sort of stuff who have contributed to this video. Thank you very much for doing that on such short notice. And I think 2022 is going to be an awesome year for Flesh and Blood. But I think every year is awesome for this game. It's just a fantastic game. It's a great time to still get into this, and I think we're going to see a lot more support for newer /intro products being printed in potentially the unknown products section of Q2 next year. So thank you very much for tuning in. Leave your comments in the section below. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this video. Hit the little bell notification, and we'll see you on the next video. Peace.